Steve Chaggaris is a journalist and political analyst here in Washington, and I asked him about the political polarization that's been surrounding this event.
I suspect that if it was any other president, it wouldn't be as controversial, but because it's President Trump, it brings out controversy. You have Democrats and critics coming out and saying this is ridiculous, presidents never do this, he's politicizing July 4th, he's politicizing the military. In fact, there are some members of the military leadership who are saying, well, we're not sure we want our heavy equipment and tanks to be put on display in a political type of event.
What do you make of the contrast here in Washington, D.C., millions being spent on this event, and just a few blocks down you've got people, homeless people living in tents?
Well, you know, every year there are celebrations in Washington, D.C. It's not just the president. Yes, he's spending a lot more money on this event than they normally spend, but every year there's a giant celebration in Washington. There's a parade down Constitution Avenue, which happens every year. It doesn't involve the president.
The president says he was inspired by the festivities, the parade he saw in Paris for Bastille Day. Critics have compared it more with events in Moscow or Pyongyang. What do you make of those parallels?
Yeah, it's interesting. So, of course, his critics are the ones saying this is like a dictator, authoritarianism, showing off his military hardware and trying to make a statement to the country that, you know, he's a dictator in charge of the country. But really the inspiration for this event was, as you mentioned, a Bastille Day event that he attended 2 years ago in France. And really, you know, President Trump, a lot of people have defined him as the reality show president. This is a guy who had his own reality show before he became president. And, you know, he knows what a good show is, at least he thinks he does. And I think he felt that, wow, you know, when he was in Paris and he saw all these planes flying and the military marching down the streets, that we've got to do this in America. And he's been trying for the last couple of years to get something like this going.
Overall, will this be a net gain or a net loss for the president, who appears to always be worried about his popularity among the people?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that question. You know, I think there's concern that they're not going to have the kinds of numbers of people to show up to this thing that he wants. You know, some folks suggest that he's still a little bit irritated by the criticism of number of people who showed up for his inauguration a couple of years ago, and then this is an opportunity to try to change that narrative. I mean, he's a big optics guy. He likes to have those pictures of people cheering for him, large numbers of people cheering for him, which is why he does these political rallies in arenas and packs people in. But this, you know, I'm not sure that he's going to get those kinds of numbers, and if he doesn't, who knows politically what it means for him. You know, I think that this president, no matter what he does, the opposition is pretty baked in, and it's very, very deep. And the people who don't like this president, no matter what he does, they're not going to change their minds. And this kind of event isn't going to change anybody's mind who's opposing this president at this point.